So, yeah, what's up, guys? This is going to be episode 3 of the breakdown. We have Mr. Mechanics himself, Ricard Bergman,
Hello, hello.
playing from Korea. And yeah, what's up, dude?
Yeah, what's up? Not much.
Not much.
Just
So, you were just telling me you're in Korea full time now, for the most
yes,
part. You've spent a lot of time there.
more
And
or less full time.
that's pretty sweet, man. And you plan on continuing to do that?
Yeah, for at least as long as I'm a StarCraft 2 pro gamer, I plan on staying in Korea, I think.
That's awesome. And this is you've been actively trying to qualify for the GSL for Super Tournament.
Yeah.
This is Super Tournament game against Deer, right?
Yes, qualifier game.
Cool. So tell us about this.
Um,
Like, how did you get to this game? Like, is it the first round or is it?
yeah, this was the first round in the
Cool.
Super Tournament. The first game, first round.
Sweet.
And the setup is okay at the Africa PC bunks where they run the qualifiers. So I felt fairly good going into the games. I had some decent warm up. I was there early, so I felt pretty good going into the games.
Awesome. So we're gonna go to your camera, and then you can walk us a little bit through what you're thinking. I'll ask you questions about how the
Yep.
game's going and whatnot.
Absolutely.
So CVP for starters on this
Yep.
map. Is there any thoughts you have on it, just right off the bat?
I fairly like this map, mostly because the fourth and the main is quite close with Protoss, so there's some potential for drop plays in the mid game with Roach Hydra. I don't really like Hydroling Bane cells in this map because it's fairly choked up, so it's hard to attack into Storm on this map. But
Okay.
yeah, I prefer Roach Hydra on a map like this. Sometimes Swarm Host is okay.
I see what you're saying. So drop play is very strong because it threatens two positions, essentially the fourth potential fourth that's in front of the main, or the main with drops, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet.
And going for a 16 hatch.
Okay.
To avoid
that's,
getting,
that's been picking up
blocked.
a lot, right? The Q-lash,
Yeah.
as they call it.
I think I do 16 hatch in almost every matchup now because it's actually you lose like 5 to 10 minerals compared to doing 17 hatch, and it's way more safer. You get your natural queen earlier, so that's also nice in CVT. For the Reaper, you have your natural queen a little bit faster, and things like that.
In CVC specifically, because in CVC there's the hatchery having less armor while it's building, so it's just better against early pools. So
Yeah,
risk
exactly.
reward, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
In CVT, I can see similar reasoning for proxy rexes and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
In CVP, what specifically do you like about the 16 hatch?
Well, on normal sized map like this, they can't ever block your hatchery. with their
Okay,
early
the
scout.
pylon block, this guy.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And on smaller maps, you have the 15 hatch, but on most
15
maps you can.
hatch. That sounds pretty monkas.
Yeah, but
So
it's more
15 hatch,
monkas
you
to.
float more monkas to get it blocked.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I guess. And then what? When you go 15 hatch, do you like float larva and shit?
Yeah, you float 3 larvae for like a few seconds right after the hatchery is being made.
All right. So we're taking a gas pool pretty fast
Yeah.
here. What's the reasoning behind the gas so early? Is it just the first adept or?
It basically just like lines up like that. Like you rally the 18th and 17th drone from the egg directly to the extractor in the pool.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So you want 16 workers on your mineral line, and that's the predominant thought here.
Yeah, optimal mining. Yeah.
Why the gas first and not the pool first?
Actually, it doesn't make a huge difference because in CVP there's no real rush to get to speed. It's just that if you rally the first or the 17th drone to make the pool, it has to just sit there and chill out for a bit because we don't have enough minerals right away.
Got you.
Yeah, so it's just
cool.
Feels a bit smoother, but doesn't really make a difference in the end. And here there's some mistakes from me, right? Like I have 3 drones in one patch, or I had them
tiny
to
stuff.
Yeah, and my anti macro here isn't great, and it's actually very important, especially if they're doing fast 2 adepts.
Wait, what is very important if they're doing 2 adepts?
That you're very good with your drone micro versus the probe micro, because if you get your mineral income delayed too much, then you can't afford your 3rd queen on time, and then you don't have 3 queens by the time the 2 adepts hit.
So what constitutes good drone micro here? Just clicking on the mineral patch to make sure that you're mining it right after the probe tries to stop it, or is it putting a drone on the probe right away? Or
the only time you want to put a drone on the probe is if it's going in between two patches and it's going back and forth between those two patches, right? But when he's just doing this, like only one patch at a time, you only want to just click on that
the
patch.
mineral patch, right?
Yeah.
Make sure that you're actively mining it.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
So here, I'm messing up a bit with my drone micro. And I started to do this more recently because there actually is no need at all to rush out speed in CVP. So I would start just putting 2 on gas to optimize mineral mine income a little bit. Like as you can see here, the drone has to wait a little bit, so I could mine with 3 for like 2 seconds. But I don't think it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, probably not. The probe is still being annoying, so whatever.
Yeah.
Now my question, Ricard, is because I was talking about this with Lambo a little bit, but
yeah,
it feels as though as if, or I thought that the 17th and 18th drone mine just nearly as much as the first 16.
Yeah.
Taking that into account, would you ever consider maybe putting 17 and 18 drones on the mineral line and delaying the gas, particularly in this matchup?
The thing about putting your 17th and 18th drone on the minerals is that, like you said, the benefit is extremely small, right?
Sure, yeah.
And also
I mean, these are all pretty fucking tiny things we're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly. But also the potential for that drone to start wandering, right, where it doesn't stick to the patch you put it on, is also a lot bigger. And if it starts doing that, it can fuck up the rest of your mineral income, basically. So
then you become somewhat inconsistent, right? Because then you have like different games where you have different incomes, and it's harder to, I guess, iterate and practice.
Yeah, exactly. And this way I can make sure that everything stays efficient.
Makes sense. So you get more familiar with your opener this way.
Yeah.
Cool.
And this is also another benefit of doing the 16 hatch is that you can start your first 2 queens at the exact same time, because the hatchery finishes at the same time as the pool.
Mm-hmm. Still just 2 drones on gas?
Yeah, pull out 1 after speed.
Sweet.
And now I'm just checking with the Overlord. First to check if there's a warp gate skip or not.
Mm-hmm. Now this matchup has become very technical, and I like how the metagame has shifted what people do. So when I play StarCraft, I still default to, like whatever the fuck I was thinking about a few years ago. And so like my default is to send both Overlords to the other side. Yeah. But for the last year or so, people have been going so much Stargate and Stargate openers with Phoenixes that Zergs have begun as in the last few months to adjust and just send one Overlord out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you do with your other Overlord?
What I do is I try to hide it somewhere closer to the Protoss side of the map, so I can sacrifice it later on, and hopefully the Phoenix won't find it. Cool. So you can see where I'm rallying this one, where it's fairly close, but it's not going to be close to the Protoss base.
Yeah, so unlikely that the Phoenix will fly in that path.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to put it in a place where the Phoenix won't find it as easily. Mm-hmm. And then you want to sacrifice that one at like around 5:30 or something to see if there's like a fake third 7-8 gate, something like that coming, right?
Got you. And this first one is just... What's the point of this first one? Is it just going to check the Stargate tech and confirm, or...?
Yeah, so the first one, you check the warp gate, right? You see if there's no warp gate skip or warp gate skip. And if it's warp gate skip, it's most likely Stargate. But Protoss players have been starting to do warp gate skip into DT just to...
nasty.
Yeah, just to
take advantage of that, of that knowledge.
Exactly. And the second thing you do is you check if there's a second chrono boost on the gateway.
Okay, we gotta slow down here. So warp gate skip, how can you tell if there's a warp gate being researched or not?
So the little blue circle in the middle of the cyber core, it spins if it's upgrading. And if it's not upgrading, it's completely still.
So right now we're gonna see that it's upgrading. I'm gonna take it off your camera.
Yeah.
And this tells you that they spend early 50 gas and 50 minerals on this, and as such, you don't have to worry about the earlier Stargate. That would mean you would maybe have to make earlier spores or position your queen somewhat differently to account for an earlier oracle, I assume, right?
Exactly.
Cool. So then you see an adept. I guess that's like 90% of games.
Yeah, but, especially if the chrono boost. The first is almost always an adept. And they kind of have to be safe. Like some people like to gamble and make a stalker first, but then they're completely blind for like the first until they get the oracle, basically.
Yes, and that is because stalkers are really bad at moving out, right? They're fairly expensive and they can get caught by links with speed. They don't really trade or fare well against those.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
whenever Protoss makes a stalker, they kind of just have to sit back and, like you said, they gain no information.
Yeah.
And they also kind of, like when people go stalkers, I also cut down on the links if I can, right? Like if it's not too late.
Exactly. And the second thing I looked for was where the second corner boost went, if it went on the gateway. Because if it goes on the gateway, then it's very likely that it's going to be 2 adept pressure. And the response you have to that is to cut drones on 29 and get your third queen very fast.
Mm-hmm.
That way you can have 2 queens in the natural and the third one finishing in the main once the adept shade finishes. So that makes the very fast 2 adept pressure very easy to deal with.
Cool. Let's go back to that. That's interesting. You have a very mechanized approach to most matchups, right? Like you really grind. Like you grind step by step, and you're like, if this, if this.
Yeah. Like I have a lot of trigger points, right?
It's pretty cool. Yeah. Have you
I'm
ever
not-
considered switching to Terran?
Yeah, I've thought about wanting to do that for a long time. I think I would enjoy playing Terran more. But
I think
just
you
feel
would
like-
be really good at Terran. Like, cause I think Terran's so good at this kind of trigger points and iteration and just, you know.
Yeah, I think Zerg is definitely more about being chaotic and being able to adapt on the fly, right?
More
I don't
so
think-
than the other races. I think that you can play anything, like any type of StarCraft with any race, right? But I think that certain races have certain advantages on one front or the other, and I think your playstyle seems more suited towards Terran. You could be and then you would be a hero to Zergs, you know? Because like everyone does the switch to Protoss or switch to Zerg and then they do good, you know?
Yeah.
You would be the Zerg that goes to Terran and then you
Yeah.
say like, oh, this race is fucking easy.
I'm,
Do it, Ricard.
kinda
Do it for
like,
the Swarm.
I'm kind of thinking like, if I could go back, I would choose Terran. But I think at this point, it's a bit too late for me to become relevant with Terran.
I don't think so. I think that's silly thinking. I think your work ethic is unparalleled, and I think, yeah, you're great at this kind of shit.
Maybe.
Like, yeah, you should consider it.
Maybe.
And give it a month or something, a week. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of time now. Then there's a new patch. Man, that's Ricard. Just
I might
try it for a week
fool
or
around
two.
with it for a bit. We'll see. After WSG qualifiers. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, so we go on, and I didn't see a second corner boost, so I just send it over into the main. And this is what I talked about earlier, where they sometimes take rocket skip, right, and go DT. So you just want to double
Confirm the Stargate.
Yeah, Stargate. Because 99% of the time, they're opening Phoenix first anyways, and then you lose this Overlord maybe like 20 seconds later anyways. Than
This
you
is this is something that I never understood. I understood I think the meta shifted to Phoenix first openers when the Overlord drops were predominant and really common, right? And it made sense. It's like you get your Phoenix, then you can't get Link dropped, so you take that out of the equation. But then Blizzard removed that, and then Protoss still go for Phoenix first openers. I much rather see the Oracle first because it forces out the Zerg to make like Spores and Queens or whatever defense earlier, and then the Phoenix to take care of the Overlords. But I don't know why Protoss haven't done that yet, adapted.
I think the reason is that Zergs have gotten very good at defending the Oracle, and they're almost always prepared for it at this point. They're like the first Oracle almost never catches the Zerg off guard.
Yeah.
So getting the Phoenix out early and supply blocking the Zerg actually can do more damage than the first Oracle can at this point.
You think so?
And it's
I feel
also
like
reliable damage.
I feel like it's pretty well. That's the thing. I feel like I'm not sure that they understand that reliable damage can also be just forcing the Zerg to make Spores earlier, right? Like if you force the Zerg to make Spores, to make like say 2 Spores 30 seconds earlier, that's like 50 minerals wasted already, and the Overlord's still gonna die to the Phoenix, or in this case, I think he has a Stalker anyway. So
the thing is, you only have to make 1 Spore versus the Oracle, the fast Oracle, because
and then just position your queens differently.
Yeah, you have 2 queens in one place and then 1 Spore in one place. Actually, like the first dangerous point when the Protoss aggression has with the Stargate opening is when they have the Phoenix and the Oracle, and they fly and they lift the Queen, and then the Oracle comes.
Right.
So they want the Phoenix anyways, right, for the attack.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense for them to.
Yeah, there's
Phoenix
also
first.
I mean there's also the argument that Phoenix gain energy, right? So but I guess Oracles do too, but maybe the Phoenix energy is a little bit more important. It seems like Oracles have plenty of energy to go around.
And it's also, if they don't, like in this case, you had to open Stalker, right? Because it's not going Phoenix first, so you can deny scouting. Because you don't want to let the Zerg have free vision of your base for too long. Because right now, CVP, there's 3 main openings for Protoss. It's either Archon Drop, double Stargate Phoenix, or Adept. And if you just let the Zerg look for a little bit longer, it becomes very easy to judge what it is. Or at least you can eliminate one of the big possibilities. And then it's very easy to prepare for the other 2.
I think that's really a really cool thing to mention, because Protoss, just like we were talking about some of the differences between Terran and Zerg, I feel like Protoss is the tech race, and it really relies on your opponent not having information, having to account for multiple things, or gamble, right? Because Protoss has such strong tech paths, they can actively just decide, okay, I'm gonna do this one, and if you're not prepared for this one, then you just kind of die, right? Or take way too much damage. So that's a really cool point to make. Like, it's important to deny information from Protoss because negating those possibilities makes it so that your opponent has to invest into accounting for more things, rather than just knowing what to account for and, cutting every other corner.
Yeah, I think like CVP right now, the early game is super critical to the entire game, and if you know everything is Zerg, it becomes quite easy.
Right.
So at this point, I walk my 2 queens down to the natural. My 4th queen is finishing, and it's going to inject and then go into the main. Because what's most likely to happen here is the Phoenix and the Oracle will come into the main and try to lift the queen and snipe some drones.
And
then
this
you have
is
2
a
queens
very
there.
interesting sport placement at the main. What's up with that? What's the...
The idea is that if he tries to go above the hatchery and come around, then I have the natural queen that can basically trap the Oracle, right?
Cool.
So it's
So you just walk it from the low ground to the low ground, behind the minerals.
Yeah, exactly. So then the Oracle is essentially trapped, right?
Cool. That's pretty cool.
It's a bit to 100, right? If the main is very far from the natural, maybe you have to position it a bit differently. But
no, yeah,
in
definitely. But on this map,
yeah,
that's pretty sweet. Is this your positioning that you made?
I got it from Scarlet like a year ago or so.
Cool.
Yeah,
really cool.
And then so here I got the scout with the Overlord, the first Overlord. Before it died, I saw there was no early gats in the natural. And then it can still be Archon drop, but it can no longer be double Stargate Phoenix. So I know that it's either Adept or Archon drop at this point. So my response to that was just to drop a slightly earlier Roach Warren than I would normally would.
Okay. Still going for a very fast lair?
Yeah. Actually, I forgot my Roach Warren. I can see now.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah. You would want to start the Roach Warren at around 4 minutes compared to like 4:20 if you suspect it can be an adept timing.
There's the Roach Warren, so yeah, quite late indeed.
Yeah.
And you're doing the Serral too with the links, so fucking links everywhere.
That's kind of what you have to do at this point. If you don't, like, you never want to make the roaches until you actually see the porpoise moving out if it's Archon drop. Because if you don't get to see the... Yeah, let's say that he did go for the faster gets, the natural, right? The only way I have to know if it's Archon drop or double Stargate Phoenix is if I see the Phoenix or the porpoise move out. Because I have no way to scout at that point in the game. So you just don't want to make roaches, because if you make the roaches and the Phoenix show up, then you're quite sad. So you're just trying to...
So if so the problem I would see with this is if your opponent just sneaks out a War Prism or something, like say if someone studies your patterns, right, and then they just say like, oh, I can just go south with my War Prism, like all the way south, then you just die every time, right? It's
not good. But I think like this game might be some mistake, but mostly on every map you want to have links covering basically the entire...
Everywhere. Okay.
Yeah, everywhere. So you want to be like solid proof, and then you're obviously 100% relying on your ability to spot that warp prism, right? If you actually miss seeing the warp prism moving out, then you're also kind of fucked.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so now you've confirmed it's many adepts with glaive. You're gonna start making 7 roaches.
Yes, so I'm gonna make about 6, 7, 8 roaches and then links. because you need the roaches to actually fight the adepts, and then you need the links to chase the shades around.
Right. To actually capitalize.
And I make a spine in the main.
I like that.
Just because it's hard for the roaches to cover everything, and if you have just this one spine, it makes it so much harder for him to actually target down drones.
Yeah, then they can just they can just go in between two bases, right?
Yeah.
Why in the main over, say, the natural?
Because the main is furthest away from everything usually. Like the adept is gonna be most threatening to the natural, right? And then the shade is gonna threaten the main. So my units are most likely gonna be farther away from the main than anywhere else most of the time.
Okay. I would actually think that the natural is one of the better places to put it, because they're gonna attack the natural, right? And they have to transition through the natural if they want to go to the main or the third.
I would agree in general, but like I said earlier, my roach run was slightly late here, right? So I'm supposed to have roaches here in the natural.
Okay.
And I'm not so much
because
scared
that's the
of
most
actual...
neutral position, right? Like you would have
exactly.
they would react to the third or the main. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And the third is close if my units just chase the shades, whereas the main is a bit further away.
Cool.
And I also have my queens in the third, as you can see.
Yeah. So yeah, your roach horn was a little bit late. Still, you made the roaches as you saw the adepts move out. Do you feel you saw the adepts late, or?
I think a little bit, maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if my reaction was 100% on point here. Maybe you can go back and check a bit. I think if I make the roaches right away, they should finish pretty much on time. But I think it ended up kind of fine. Like they're popping right now.
Okay, it's gonna be around here.
Yeah. So let's see. What's my larva count at? Yeah, I don't have any larva. That's the like mid index. Oh, they're actually finishing up. Okay, so here I see them.
Okay, now you see it. You have
like
one
one roach.
roach making.
Yeah, I don't have any money. That's the issue, right? So.
Why don't you have any money? You just finished a round of production, like something unlucky like that?
Maybe it's the fourth hatch, I think. Maybe I cancel that. Let's check if I stop building that. Because right now I'm building a fourth hatchery, right?
That would be good.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I stop it and then I get 4 roaches. So that's why. So we're a few seconds late, right? But
I mean, this was still a fairly quick reaction, right? Especially canceling the fourth and everything. And still your roaches won't be quite in time. That's pretty scary.
It's a little bit scary, but I think even though with this, they finish in time. Like, you're always going to take some damage versus these steps, but you just need to not take too much. Like, they always kind of want to trade these adepts out either way. So even if you have roaches, they're going to try to YOLO shade somewhere.
Okay, so how do you feel about this right now? You're in a good position, in a playable position, slightly behind.
How many drones do I lose? 9? It's okay. It's not the perfect defense, but it's certainly okay, I think.
And like, up until that point, you were pretty greedy and whatnot, right? So
yeah, and I didn't like drop down to like 55 drones or something. I'm still up at 60 drones, which is almost 3 base saturation, which is okay.
Okay, so you've dealt with that. Now, unfortunately for you, your map is dark. Like, what are you thinking? What's next from here?
Right now, I'm concerned about getting up my fourth, and then preparing for the potential. A very common follow-up to this is to do some sort of immortal sentry timing. So that's one thing I'm thinking about. But it's also, I have to think about the potential of him just taking up double robo. And so I have to think about getting my fourth up and running, and then thinking about what my aggressive options is going to be in the mid game. Do I want to go for the drop play? Do I want to go for swarm host? Do I just want to try to bust the front with roach or roach hydra?
Okay. So what is like? I would be so scared of the Protoss. Like you said, maybe just taking a fourth and macroing up, maybe dropping the second robo later.
Yeah.
Something like that. So those aggressive options or potential is also going to be important, right? Like, you do have a bunch of roaches that just kill the depths. Are you looking to move out on the map right now?
Definitely you can move out here, I think. And
with the speed finishing, right?
Yeah. You probably can't achieve too much with them, but you can at least,
keep them honest, right? Like, make sure they're not being too
here or something, Yeah.
Okay.
But then the warp doesn't come, and I'm kind of being too defensive here, I think. Where I'm a bit too scared, because I don't have any map vision. Like I think at some point during that defense I F2'd, which is a bad mistake. Because Zerg, you should never ever F2, I think.
Yeah, so right now he actually was being fairly greedy, right? Like he kept up probing. He's ahead of you in that regard.
Yeah.
I'm looking at his vision now. He's adding a lot of production, tech. And right now, by adding this tech, you're kind of locking yourself into non-aggression, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So
I think what made the best decision might have been to just not make any more drones. I was 59 drone, that's a good count, 5 gas, and just go for like a Roach Ravager, basically bust.
because at the end of the adept attack, you would be ahead in army. Let's check.
Yeah,
you should be, right? For sure ahead in army. So maybe just pile onto that. Basically say, I've mined so much up until right before the adepts. Then the adepts come, you lose a chunk of your army. And then maybe, you just pile onto that. Let's see.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for sure that's what I should have done this game. But because that also kind of deals with one of the other options I mentioned, where he can go for an immortal all-in sort of follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm just spamming roaches, I automatically just win. So it would be a good option, I think.
Yeah, right now, if we look at the army tab, you're considerably ahead. Now, what would you do if that was your choice? Would you continue to mine the gases and look for Ravagers maybe on the aggression, or?
Yeah, for sure. I would. The thing that kind of sucks about doing that is that I've missed an inject in the third base during all this.
You've missed an inject. Your life must be so nice. I miss like fucking 40 injects per game.
Well, like when you're in these positions where you're forced to, or like when you want to punish them.
Right.
If you've done one of these mistakes, and suddenly that's the thing that can make or break your attack, basically.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that you could do to help that is maybe just mine the gases, right, more proactively. Like at the main, maybe take the gases, and then you can dump resources onto Ravagers instead of relying on larvae as much.
Yeah, so what I would do here is just saturate all my gases right away. Make the next 2 injects of a finishing will be roaches.
Mm-hmm.
And then just links from there, and then Ravagers, and then try to just bust down the front.
I like that. Okay. But instead we kind of played it safe. We said, okay, let's take this longer. Like you said, you didn't take that much damage, so
yeah,
this game could be playable otherwise. And you say, with my army advantage, I should be able to defend everything, so I'm gonna tech up, right? And you decide to go for a tech lead.
Yeah.
And you take the infestation pit. What's the infestation pit for here?
This case it's Swarmhost.
Just in case you want to go Swarmhosts?
No, I'm going into Swarmhost this game.
Oh, you're going into Swarmhost, okay.
Yeah. It's just something because there was no Archon drop, so there's no War Prism with 2 Archons around to chase to fuck with the Swarmhost or the Locust or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. And you have a lot of armies, so you get the map control that Swarmhosts need, at least on paper right now, but...
The one thing that I would argue
change.
against going Swarmhost here in retrospect is my creep spread. You don't very good creep spread with Swarmhost because they're extremely slow off creep. So you want to have basically like creep up to here, then your Swarmhost can just run to here, dump the Locust, and then go back, right? Or
I'm not sure where you're pointing, but you're pointing at the 4th, right? Towards the 4th? Okay.
Oh, you can't see? Towards the 3rd, I mean. Like I want to basically have creep up until the ramp. That's like in the middle of the map, basically. To the 3rd.
Towards his 3rd?
Yeah, but like you want creep until the middle of the map, basically, so that your Swarmhost only has to go a bit off creep, and then they can dump the Locust over their ledge.
So you're saying you should have creep where you don't have creep, like not where your creep is spreading towards?
I should have creep everywhere, but just like I want it further out, basically. Like
that's further out from where you're spreading it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's like Swarmhost. If you want to play Swarmhost, you have to have good creep spread. So I think this would have definitely been better if we're going for just Overlord speed and Hydras and just trying to overwhelm him and pull him apart with drops. I think that would have been a better idea this game, in retrospect.
All right.
So I think, here I'm starting the Overlords, right? Because you don't really want to make your Swarmhost one at a time, because you're not going to send in one Swarmhost Locust wave, right? You're going to wait until you have like the most clumped up anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But here I actually saw him move out, I think. Because I'm making roaches, so not many other things make sense.
Okay. And this
So that was
should
right
be
then.
all right for you, right? Or maybe not.
Yeah.
I mean, you did take up a lot.
That's what I was. When I was playing this, I thought I was going to hold quite easily, but I'm not quite sure what happened.
Let's see. Well, he gets a pretty good position here.
Yeah, I think at this point I should just sacrifice this fourth hatch.
Definitely,
yeah. This was the big mistake. I think I tried to force the fight and then I lose half my roaches to the immortals basically.
Yeah, the force shields just fighting in the choke there was very unpowerful.
Yeah, and as you can see, like there's no storm, there's no fourth base, so I don't really need this fourth of mine.
Yeah. Okay, so I think you probably hold if you weren't getting also so many different tech paths, right? Like you got a lot tied on the infestation pit, you got a bunch tied on Hydra and upgrades, and you're not making Hydras, and some in the evolution chamber and the upgrades there. So if we tally that, that's 150 just in drones. How much is the Hydra upgrade? Like 100, 100, right? So that's another 200 resources. Then this thing is like 75 plus like 275, so 475.
Yeah.
575, 500. And yeah, you had like 700 or 800 resources in tech that's not doing anything right now.
Yeah, exactly. And also
the position.
A big thing versus this kind of attacks that's so sentry heavy is that you want Ravagers, right? And as you can see, when he hits, I just don't have the gas to make Ravagers. So you're definitely right in the fact that I was taking up a bit too heavily.
Yeah, I think you're also right. Just forfeit this base, right? Because once you're pushed back in here, then you're giving him 2 chokes that you've made with your hatchery. Might even be better to fucking attack your hatchery and help him kill it if you really want to take this engage.
Yeah, for sure. I think poking a bit like this is fine just to try to pick up some zealots, but the mistake I do is actually try to
push past, push into
commit to the fight here. This mistake right here. Yeah, like you see all these roaches in the front, so they're gonna melt the immortals because there's nothing to tank them, right? Like, there's no links or anything. They just disappear to the immortals.
Fucking immortals, man. They are so powerful. And from here, you look pretty fucked.
Yeah. Yeah, now the fight is kind of snowballed, and I don't really have any sort of tech to make up for the fight. And I'm like, when you're making roaches, you're either gonna have enough or you're not gonna have enough, right? Like, there's no
in betweens, yeah.
There's no like with Banings where you can get good hits or something like that, you know, or you're saving time for lurkers or anything like that. It's just like
Ravagers. Just roaches. Yeah, there's no surprise.
Yeah. I still have the defender's advantage, but versus 4 immortals at this point, I don't think it's enough.
Yeah, I guess at this point you could have pulled all of your drones.
Yeah.
And all in with your army, right? Like hope that you can crush the army, save the corrosive piles in case he tries to recall, and then just try to cross the map and do something. Cause from here you just boned anyway.
Yeah, pretty much. And the thing is, like, the big thing why roaches are not so great versus this composition is actually the zealots, because they take so long to kill the zealots.
Yeah.
But once the zealots are gone, you can actually just kind of dive on their army, right? But usually by the time you kill the zealots in like a straight up fight like this, then the immortals have killed
so
enough.
much damage, yeah. Fucking immortals, man, they're so powerful.
That's why these fights always look kind of snowbally, right? Where like, if the Zerg has enough, the zealots die, and then the Zerg gets on top of the immortals, and the Protoss loses everything, right? Whereas here I can lose everything, and the immortals stay alive, and he only really lost zealots.
Yeah. Obviously, the drone pull here is pretty late, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Like, even if I would kill all of this army for free at this point, there's
exactly
+2 fourth base. He doesn't have storm, I think, but it doesn't really matter.
That's why I was thinking, like, maybe like here or something, you know, pull all the fucking drones from your natural and your main and just YOLO.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of thing where, like, that's probably the best decision, but it's really hard to make that.
Yeah, definitely.
on the fly. And here, it looks like maybe I can hold somehow, you know. But
yeah, and but then the reinforcements come.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you could have held with it. Yeah, without those zealots, you hold, right? Without those zealots coming, you hold, and then you crush those zealots if they warp in like 10 seconds later.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really difficult to make those judgments.
Yeah.
Too much going on to like be like, oh, when is the next warp in? Well,
yeah, for sure.
Still,
I think like I think if I just skip one of those things, either hydrogen or the infestation kit, if I only had one of those, I would be able to hold. Like if I had like 3 more Ravagers when he
the
first
Ravagers,
hits,
yeah, especially against sentries and whatnot.
I have 3 more Ravagers, and then I just kind of don't commit to fight for the 4th, and then I think I'm in a fine spot.
Yeah, or commit, but a little bit further out, right? Like not in the choke.
Yeah, exactly.
Either way, this was a great game and one of the best breakdowns that we've had so far, Ricky. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you very much for having me.
Let's take some questions from people. If anyone has any questions.
Absolutely.
Ryan Pisses, this is some very informative replay analysis. Yes, very much so. I learned so much.
But yeah, CVP these days feels like it's very centered around the early game. Like the game usually feels decided once you get into the mid game, in my opinion.
I really hate CVP.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan, but I think it's been worse at some points. But like the Mass Oracle era was not that fun.
Yeah,
but
I just hate it because I suck at it.
Well, me too. I lose a lot in CVP.
Pes has a question from a Protoss perspective. Do you think it's a good idea to move out like he did and attack early, or instead go for Storm?
I think it's something you can do. It's essentially an all-in in all the meanings of the word, where it's like you have to do something with it. Like you can't just move out and then like, okay, this is not going to work, I'm going to go home. I think you're going to be way too far behind in your attack and your economy. So it's like, if you can play super reactively with the Oracle, and you scout and you think that it can work, then yeah. But I think in general, this is not most consistent way to play. But it's definitely something good in tournaments, right? To throw your opponent off and be unpredictable and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I think that's one of the bigger strengths of Protoss.
Yeah.
I would say fucking mix shit up.
Yeah.
Like Pes is a very like at least when I play him on the ladder, he goes for really similar openers all the time. So it's actually cool to play against them because I learned like how to deal with them better every time, I feel like, but yeah, I think you should mix shit up with Protoss.
For sure.
That said, if you're gonna pick an opener, in my opinion, that you want to like just consistently do stuff with and play Protoss like a Terran would play, then go for the Archon drops, right? Like the surprise element is so like borderline meaningless, and then you're just relying on your ability to outpace your opponent, to flood your opponent with.
Yeah, Archon drop is like the least surprise-based opening, and where you're just kind of doing your thing, right? You just
it's no surprise that Neeb was the pioneer with it, right? Because he was originally a Terran player. So Archon drops is kind of like, hey, like, look, I'm really good at this. Deal with it. What makes Ravagers good in that situation? Asks KMFW.
Well, the sentries, the force fields, and also the ability to, once you actually get force fielded, you can buy